Lydia had never gotten over the tragedy that had marked her life. The disappearance of her little girl, Maya, had transformed her, keeping her imprisoned in a painful past for 25 years. If you are passionate about real-life stories, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Every day you can listen to new stories and interact with the community. However, a request from her son, Ricardo, made her reconsider many things, leading her to take her first flight. During that flight, an unexpected encounter with a particular flight attendant would unleash a series of unthinkable revelations, which would bring to light secrets that had been kept for a long time. It was a bright morning, and a ray of sunshine was gently penetrating the curtains of Lydia's house. The atmosphere was calm, almost suspended, and the smell of food cooked by Lydia spread in the kitchen, where she was preparing lunch. Little Maya, who was only 1 year old, was sleeping peacefully in her crib, her angelic face immersed in her dreams. Lydia stared at the window, her heart torn between the desire to remain anchored to her routine, to the safety of that house that, despite everything, had been her refuge, and the desire to give Ricardo what he asked for. Her eyes rested on an old photograph of Maya, which had been on the sideboard, framed for months. The little girl's smile seemed to implore Lydia not to remain imprisoned in the past. Maybe the time has come to take this step, she thought. Maybe it's time to leave this pain behind me. With a deep breath, she decided to accept the journey. In the living room, Ricardo, the 3-year-old eldest, was a volcano of energy. He played with enthusiasm, transforming the furniture in the room into a playground. Every jump was for him a small victory, an adventure to conquer, while laughter filled the house. Lydia watched them with love. The duality of her children was evident. Ricardo, with his vivacity, kept her always moving, while Maya, with her serenity, emanated peace. It was a seemingly perfect morning, but Lydia could not ignore a dark premonition that something terrible was lurking. It wasn't long before a shrill scream pierced the silence. Ricardo fell heavily, and his head hit a coffee table, causing a deep cut on his forehead. Wasting no time, Lydia ran to him, grabbing a towel to try to stop the bleeding. Her mother's heart was beating wildly, while Ricardo's tears mixed with the blood. With her husband away on business, Lydia knew she had to ask for help. She ran to the door of her neighbor, Telma, a trusted woman who lived right across the street. "Telma, I have to take Ricardo to the hospital. Can you stay with Maya while he sleeps?" "Sure, Lydia," Telma replied promptly. "I'm just turning off the stove. I'll be right there." With a sigh of relief, Lydia headed toward the hospital with Ricardo in her arms. She had no idea that this would be the last moment of peace she would have for a long time. Telma, however, took a few minutes longer than expected. When she finally entered Lydia's apartment and headed toward Maya's room, what she saw made her blood run cold. The crib was empty. The baby had disappeared without a trace. Confusion soon turned to panic, and Telma began frantically searching every corner of the house. In terror, Telma decided to call the police. Within minutes, officers arrived and began searching the entire building, questioning neighbors and trying to piece together what had happened. When Lydia returned from the hospital, the The scene that greeted her was surreal. Police officers in action, worried neighbors, and the overwhelming feeling that something irreparable had happened. Time seemed to stand still for Lydia. Her little girl had vanished, and no one knew how or why. Despite searches and investigations, no clues emerged as to Maya's whereabouts. The years passed, but Lydia could never forget. Her life, and that of her entire family, was forever marked. After 25 years, Ricardo had become a man. That pain, however, continued to haunt Lydia, who refused to leave the house in the hope that one day Maya might return. But on Ricardo's 28th birthday, something changed. "Mom," he said, "this year my special gift would be for you to come with us on a trip." Lydia hesitated. She had never agreed to travel, preferring to stay home for fear of missing Maya's return. But something that day pushed her to say yes. And so, for the first time in her life, she found herself on a plane. During the flight, Lydia couldn't hide her anxiety. Her hands were sweaty, her legs were shaking. But it was an unexpected encounter that changed everything. A flight attendant, with a reassuring smile, approached her. "Everything is fine, Mom," she said softly. "I'll be here if you need anything." Lydia looked at her. Something about that young woman seemed incredibly familiar, but she couldn't figure out what. When she finally managed to look into her eyes, she felt a shiver run through her body. A faint voice came from her lips. "Maya, is that you?" The assistant was puzzled. "My name is Maya, yes. How do you know?" Lydia fainted immediately. When she regained consciousness, she realized that the young woman was indeed her daughter. The different colored eyes, a rare condition called heterochromia, left no room for doubt. Maya told her story, how an unstable woman had raised her after kidnapping her as a child. Only recently, after the woman's death, had she discovered the truth about herself. The truth had finally emerged, and the family found themselves in a moving embrace. Lydia, after 25 years of torment, finally felt a sense of peace. She was ready to leave the past behind and open a new chapter in her life, next to her rediscovered daughter. If the story moved you, leave a like and write us in the comments. What would you have done in Lydia's place?